The rain fell like accusatory fingers against my skin, each droplet a reminder of my failures. I huddled beneath the bus shelter's meager protection, my thin jacket soaked through within minutes of the downpour beginning. The cold had seeped into my bones, but it was nothing compared to the chill of dread spreading through my chest at the sight of the out-of-service sign flashing mockingly on the last bus of the night. "Damn it," I whispered, my voice drowned by the thunderous percussion of water against metal. I glanced at my phone. 11:47 p.m., 3% battery, and no rideshare apps I could afford. Mrs. Winters would be furious if I called again to ask her to stay longer with Emma. My 4-year-old daughter was probably asleep by now, tiny fingers clutching the worn teddy bear I'd salvaged from a thrift store last Christmas. 16 hours into a double shift at Pearson's Diner, my feet screamed in cheap non-slip shoes, and the scent of grease had permanently embedded itself in my pores. Tips had been miserable. Rent was due in 3 days, and now, 5 miles from home with no way to get there except my own exhausted legs, I stepped out from the shelter, resignation washing over me along with the rain. The storm had emptied the streets, transforming the usually busy avenue into an abandoned river of reflections and shadows. My name is Olivia Parker, 32 years old, single mother, and invisible to the world unless I'm pouring coffee or being hounded for late payments. The distant purr of an engine cut through the rainfall's white noise. Headlights pierced the watery curtain, illuminating the deserted street with twin beams that seemed to search rather than simply light the way. I squinted as the vehicle slowed. A sleek black Bentley, so out of place in this neighborhood that it might as well have been a spaceship. My heart skipped when it pulled alongside me, water rippling around its tires. The back window slid down with mechanical precision, revealing nothing but darkness within. "You shouldn't be walking in this weather." The voice that emerged was low, textured like aged whiskey over rough stones. I caught fragments of the man inside, the gleam of a heavy ring on long fingers, the sharp cut of an expensive suit jacket, the scent of cedar and something metallic that cut through the rain. "I'm fine," I lied, water dripping from my lashes, obscuring my vision. "No, you're not." Not a question. A statement of fact delivered with such quiet authority that I found myself unable to argue. "Where are you headed?" Self-preservation warred with desperation. Never get into cars with strangers was lesson 1 in every woman's handbook. But hypothermia was becoming a real possibility, and Emma needed me alive more than she needed me prudent. "Oak Ridge Apartments," I answered, trying to sound stronger than I felt. A pause. "That's on my way." It wasn't on anyone's way. Oak Ridge was the kind of place people only went to if they lived there or were delivering something no one wanted to deliver. The door swung open, revealing leather interior the color of blood. "Get in." I hesitated, rainwater forming rivulets down my back. Through the open door, I glimpsed another man in the front passenger seat, broad-shouldered, head-shaved, posture alert despite the late hour. A driver sat behind the wheel, equally vigilant. Neither turned to look at me. "I don't need—" I began. "You have someone waiting for you?" The voice from the shadows interrupted. My silence was answer enough. "Then get in before you drown." Something in his tone, not kindness exactly, but a certainty that I would comply, pushed me forward. I slid onto the leather seat, my soaked clothes immediately creating a puddle beneath me. "I'm sorry," I stammered, mortified by the water I was dripping everywhere. "I'm making a mess of your car. It's just water." As the door closed beside me, sealing us into climate-controlled silence, I finally saw him clearly. He occupied the opposite corner of the spacious back seat, giving me room that felt both considerate and calculated. Light from passing street lamps strobed across features that seemed carved rather than formed. Sharp cheekbones, a straight nose, and a mouth set in a neutral line that suggested it rarely smiled. Dark hair, styled with precision, framed eyes so intensely focused that I had to look away. He wasn't handsome in the conventional sense. Handsome implied something approachable, something that invited admiration. This man's features demanded respect, perhaps fear. I guessed him to be in his early 40s, though something in his eyes spoke of experiences beyond his years. "Thank you for the ride," I managed, trying to occupy as little space as possible on the expensive leather. "I'm Olivia." He studied me for a moment longer than was comfortable. "Alessio Russo." The name settled in the space between us with a weight I couldn't explain. I'd never heard it before, yet something about the way he said it, the way the men in the front seat subtly straightened at the sound, told me it was a name that mattered. "Where exactly in Oak Ridge?" he asked. "Building C, but you can drop me at the entrance. I don't want to trouble you." His gaze flicked to my hands, which I realized were trembling slightly. From cold or fear, I wasn't sure anymore. "Are you ill?" The question was abrupt. "Just tired. Double shift," I explained, then immediately wondered why I was offering personal details to a stranger. He nodded once, then pressed a button. A panel slid open, revealing crystal glasses and a decanter. "Drink. It will warm you." "I don't." "It's not a request." I accepted the glass he poured, the amber liquid catching light as the car glided through the rain-slicked streets. The whiskey burned a path down my throat, spreading warmth that made me realize just how cold I'd been. "Better?" he asked, though he seemed uninterested in my answer. "Yes." "Thank you." We fell into silence. The privacy partition was up, but I could see the silhouettes of the driver and the other man through the tinted glass. They sat perfectly still, like sentinels. The car took a turn I didn't recognize, moving away from the direct route to Oak Ridge. "Excuse me," I said, anxiety fluttering in my chest. "But I think we're going the wrong way." Alessio's expression didn't change. "There's flooding on Westbrook. We're taking an alternate route." How did he know where I lived well enough to know alternate routes? Before I could formulate a response, my phone buzzed. Mrs. Winters. With trembling fingers, I answered, "Olivia, where are you? I need to leave soon. My son's car broke down and I have to pick him up." "I'm on my way," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "There was a problem with the bus. I'm getting a ride. 20 minutes tops. Hurry up. Emma's been asking for you." The call ended as my battery died. Panic rose in my throat. "I need to get home. My daughter—" "Your daughter will be fine." His calm certainty both reassured and unnerved me. "We'll be there soon." The whiskey was making my head fuzzy, or perhaps it was exhaustion catching up with me. I fought to keep my eyes open as the car's gentle motion and warmth conspired against my determination to stay alert. "How old is your daughter?" Alessio asked unexpectedly. 4. I answered, surprised by his interest. "Her name is Emma." Something flickered across his face. So brief I might have imagined it. "And her father?" The question felt invasive, yet I found myself answering, "Not in the picture. He left when he found out I was pregnant." Alessio's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Some men don't deserve the title of father." I nodded, unsure how to respond to the sudden intensity in his voice. The car slowed, and I realized with relief that we were pulling into the crumbling entrance of Oak Ridge Apartments. Rain continued to pound against the windows, but here, under the building's flickering exterior lights, it seemed less apocalyptic. "Thank you again," I said, reaching for the door handle. "You've been very kind. Wait." Alessio's command froze me in place. He reached into his jacket and produced a card. Heavy cream stock with only a phone number embossed in dark ink. "If you need anything." I hesitated before taking it. "I can't repay you." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. I didn't ask for payment. The moment stretched between us, taut with unspoken meaning. Then the door beside me opened, the broad-shouldered man from the front seat now holding an umbrella over the opening. "Building C, correct?" Alessio confirmed. "Yes, but you don't have to. Marco will escort you. It's still pouring." I stepped out, the umbrella providing immediate relief from the downpour. Marco, the first name I'd heard besides Alessio's, stood like a wall beside me, his expression unreadable. He gestured for me to lead the way. We walked in silence across the potholed parking lot. I was acutely aware of the contrast we must have presented, me in my waitress uniform under a sodden jacket, and this human monolith in an impeccable suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. At Building C's entrance, I fumbled for my keys. "Thank you. I can manage from here." Marco nodded, but made no move to leave. "Mr. Russo insists I see you safely to your door." Too tired to argue, I led him up 3 flights of stairs. The elevator had been temporarily out of service for 8 months, to apartment 3C. Mrs. Winters opened the door before I could even knock. her aged face pinched with impatience that quickly morphed into alarm at the sight of Marco. "It's okay," I assured her quickly. "He just helped me home. The bus wasn't running." She gave Marco a suspicious once-over before gathering her things. "Emma's asleep. Finally. She was asking for you all night." After paying Mrs. Winters and seeing her out, I turned to thank Marco, but he was already heading down the hallway, speaking quietly into what I now noticed was an earpiece. I closed and locked the door, leaning against it as exhaustion threatened to buckle my knees. The apartment was small, one bedroom that Emma and I shared, a combination living room kitchen with furniture salvaged from various secondhand stores, and a bathroom with perpetually temperamental plumbing. But it was home, and Emma was here. I crept into the bedroom. My daughter lay curled on her side of the bed, golden curls splayed across the pillow, her breathing deep and even. Something tight in my chest loosened at the sight of her. As I changed out of my damp clothes, the heavy card Alessio had given me fell from my pocket. I picked it up, running my fingers over the embossed number. There was something unsettling about the entire encounter. The expensive car, the men who moved like trained soldiers, Alessio himself, with his penetrating gaze and commanding presence. Normal people didn't travel with security. Normal people didn't drive Bentleys through the worst part of town during a storm. Normal people didn't exude power like a physical force. I slipped the card into my bedside drawer, telling myself I would never use it. Then I curled around Emma, breathing in her sweet, innocent scent, and fell into an exhausted sleep haunted by dark eyes that seemed to see right through me. The blaring of my alarm jolted me awake at 5:30 a.m. Another day, another early shift. I reached to silence it before it woke Emma, but my hand met only air. Confused, I opened my eyes. This wasn't my bed. This wasn't my room. Panic surged through me as I bolted upright. Instead of my cramped bedroom with its water-stained ceiling and thrift store furniture, I found myself in a spacious chamber draped in luxury. The bed beneath me was enormous, the sheets finer than anything I'd ever touched. Morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows partially covered by heavy curtains. "Emma?" I called out, voice cracking with fear. "Emma?" The only response was silence. I scrambled from the bed, noticing I was wearing silk pajamas I'd never seen before. My heart hammered against my ribs as I tried the nearest door, a walk-in closet larger than my entire apartment. The next revealed a palatial bathroom. The third door opened to a hallway, lined with artwork that probably cost more than I'd earn in several lifetimes. And there, standing at attention like sentinels, were two men in dark suits. One was Marco, the mountain who had escorted me home last night. The other was unfamiliar but cut from the same intimidating cloth. "Where am I?" I demanded, fear making my voice shrill. "Where is my daughter?" Marco stepped forward, his expression professionally blank. "Ms. Parker, Mr. Russo is waiting to speak with you downstairs." "I don't care. Where is Emma? What have you done with my daughter?" "Your daughter is safe," Marco replied evenly. "She's having breakfast in the kitchen, if you'll follow me." I pushed past him, running down the hallway, my bare feet silent against the plush carpet. Emma, where are you?" I heard her before I saw her, the familiar sound of her giggles floating up from somewhere below. I followed the sound, taking stairs two at a time, ignoring the men who trailed behind me without trying to stop my frantic search. The staircase opened into a vast foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that dripped crystal like frozen tears. I spun around, disoriented by the opulence, until Emma's laugh guided me through an archway into a kitchen that could have housed my entire apartment. And there she was, perched on a high stool at a massive island, happily eating what appeared to be chocolate chip pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. Behind her stood a woman in a chef's uniform, smiling indulgently. "Mommy?" Emma exclaimed when she saw me, chocolate smeared across her cheek. "Look, Anna made me Mickey, and we have a swimming pool. A real one." Relief made my knees weak, but confusion and anger quickly rushed in to fill the void. "Emma, are you okay? Did anyone hurt you?" Her little brow furrowed in puzzlement. "No, silly. I waked up in a princess bed, and Mr. Al said we can stay for a while because our house got sick." "Mr. Al," I repeated, a chill running down my spine. "Good morning, Olivia." The voice from the doorway froze me in place. I turned slowly to find Alessio Russo watching us, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that highlighted the breadth of his shoulders. In daylight, he was even more imposing, every inch the powerful figure I'd sensed in the darkness of his car. "What have you done?" I whispered, positioning myself between him and Emma. "Why are we here?" Alessio's dark eyes held mine, unreadable and unapologetic. "There was a fire in your building last night. Nothing remains of your apartment." The world tilted beneath my feet. "A fire? That's not possible. We were just there." My voice trailed off as memory flickered. The storm, the strange car, the man now standing before me with impassive eyes. "I don't believe you." Alessio nodded to someone behind me. A tablet appeared in my peripheral vision, held by one of his ever-present men. On the screen was a news article dated this morning. "Electrical fire devastates Oak Ridge apartments. Building C destroyed." My fingers trembled as I scrolled through images of blackened walls and collapsed ceilings, firefighters battling flames that licked hungrily at the night sky. The same sky I'd stood under just hours before. A quote from the fire chief indicated the blaze had started around 1 a.m., less than an hour after I'd arrived home. "This could be fake," I said, though my voice lacked conviction. "You could have—" "Call someone," Alessio interrupted. "Anyone from the building. Verify it yourself." And I didn't have my phone, didn't know where any of my possessions were. As if reading my thoughts, Marco stepped forward and offered me a sleek device. "Your phone was damaged," Alessio explained. "This one is secure. Use it." With shaking fingers, I dialed Mrs. Patterson from 3B. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice raspy from what sounded like hours of crying. "Hello? Mrs. Patterson? It's Olivia from 3C. "Olivia? Oh, thank God!" Her relief was palpable. "We thought you and Emma might have been when they couldn't find you. The fire department searched everywhere." "We weren't home," I said, the reality of what had happened slowly sinking in. "We're safe. Nothing's left, dear. Not a thing. The whole building." Her voice broke. "Where are you staying?" I looked up at Alessio, who watched me with that same inscrutable expression. "With a friend. I have to go. I'll call you later." I ended the call, handing the phone back to Marco as my mind raced. Everything we owned, Emma's favorite stuffed animals, the photo albums with pictures of her as a baby, my mother's wedding ring, the quilt my grandmother had made, all gone. "Mommy." Emma's small voice pulled me from the edge of panic. "Are you sad?" I forced my face into a reassuring smile. "No, baby, I'm just surprised. Remember how I told you sometimes adventures happen when we least expect them?" She nodded solemnly, chocolate smudged at the corner of her mouth. "Well, we're on an adventure now." I turned to Alessio, keeping my voice level for Emma's sake. "May I speak with you privately?" He inclined his head slightly. "Anna will watch Emma." The chef smiled warmly at my daughter. "Would you like to help me make cookies after breakfast, little one?" Emma's eyes widened with delight. "Can I, Mommy?" "Sure," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I'll be right back." Alessio led me through the enormous kitchen into what appeared to be a study. Dark wood paneling, leather-bound books lining built-in shelves, and a desk that dominated one wall. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured grounds that stretched to a stone wall in the distance. This wasn't just a house, it was an estate. The door closed behind us with a soft click. I waited until I was certain Emma couldn't hear before rounding on him. "What the hell is going on? How did we get here?" "We were in our apartment. I fell asleep with Emma." "You passed out within minutes of entering your apartment," Alessio stated matter-of-factly. "Your babysitter mentioned you hadn't eaten all day. Combined with exhaustion and the whiskey in the car. You drugged me?" Horror bloomed in my chest, his eyes narrowed dangerously. "I don't need to resort to such tactics, Olivia. The whiskey was just whiskey. You were exhausted, malnourished, and soaking wet. Your body simply gave out. That doesn't explain how we ended up here. I had you monitored." The casual admission sent ice through my veins. "Monitored?" "Marco remained outside your building. Standard procedure when I take an interest in someone's welfare. Standard procedure? I repeated incredulously. Who are you? Something like amusement flickered across his features. I told you my name. Names don't explain why a stranger in an expensive car would pick up a waitress in the rain, or why that same stranger would have her monitored, or why... My voice caught as another realization hit me. The fire. Did you... The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Be very careful with your next words, Alessio said softly. The warning in his tone was unmistakable. I swallowed hard but held my ground. Then explain why we're here instead of a hotel or a shelter or anywhere else normal people would go after losing their home. He studied me for a long moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. My driver noticed the electrical issues in your building while escorting you up. The wiring in the hallway was exposed, sparking. He reported it to me immediately after leaving you. And you didn't warn anyone? Call the fire department? I made the call. They were too busy with other emergencies due to the storm. His lip curled slightly. By the time Marco returned to extract you, the fire had already started. He carried you and your daughter out through the service stairs while my men evacuated as many others as they could reach. The matter-of-fact way he described what must have been a chaotic, life-threatening situation was chilling. Why would you do that? You don't know me. Alessio moved to a sideboard and poured 2 glasses of water, offering me one. Consider it a fortunate coincidence that our paths crossed when they did. I didn't believe in coincidences anymore. Not with this man. I accepted the water but didn't drink. I want to leave, I stated firmly. Thank you for saving us, but Emma and I need to figure out our next steps. And go where exactly? His tone wasn't unkind, but the question hit like a slap. Your building is gone. Your possessions are gone. Your workplace is 20 miles from here, and you have no transportation. Each point landed like a body blow, reality crashing down around me. I had no home, no clothes beyond what I was wearing, no money saved, and no one to turn to. I'll figure something out, I insisted, though my voice had lost its conviction. Your daughter seems happy here, Alessio observed. She's safe, fed, and currently excited about making cookies. Why not allow her that small comfort while you consider your options? He was manipulating me, using Emma as leverage. The worst part was, it was working. The thought of dragging her from this warm, secure environment into the uncertainty of our new reality made my stomach clench. What do you want from us? I asked, the question barely above a whisper. Alessio's expression softened fractionally. Right now? Nothing. You'll stay here while you sort out your insurance claim, if you had insurance, and find new accommodations. Emma will continue to make cookies with Anna and explore the swimming pool she's so excited about. And you get what out of this arrangement? His eyes held mine, the satisfaction of knowing I prevented a child from becoming homeless. I didn't believe him. Couldn't believe that simple altruism motivated a man like Alessio Russo. Men with security details and Bentleys and estates didn't rescue waitresses out of the goodness of their hearts. I need to check on Emma, I said finally, setting down the untouched water. Alessio nodded. Of course. Anna will show you both around after breakfast. I have business to attend to, but I'll join you for dinner. It wasn't a request. Back in the kitchen, Emma was happily chatting with Anna, who seemed genuinely charmed by my daughter's endless questions. The chef looked up as I entered, her warm smile revealing laugh lines around kind eyes. Your little one has quite the appetite, she said in a lilting accent I couldn't quite place. Would you like something to eat as well? My stomach growled in response. I hadn't eaten since a hurried sandwich during my break yesterday. That would be nice. Thank you. As I sat beside Emma, accepting a plate of eggs and toast that smelled divine, I tried to process everything that had happened. My apartment was gone. My few possessions had been reduced to ash. And somehow, through a series of events I still couldn't fully comprehend, my daughter and I had ended up in the mansion of a man who was either our savior or something far more dangerous. Look, Mommy. Emma held up a napkin where she'd drawn what appeared to be a house with several stick figures. That's our new house. And that's you, and me, and Anna, and Mr. Al, and the big man who carried me when I was sleeping. I froze with fork halfway to my mouth. The big man carried you? Emma nodded enthusiastically. When we were leaving. You were sleeping too, and he carried you like a princess. And then we came in a big car to the castle. I set down my fork, appetite vanishing. The image of Marco, or whoever it had been, carrying my unconscious daughter through a burning building while I was equally helpless, sent a wave of nausea through me. We had been completely at their mercy. We still were. After breakfast, Anna gave us a tour of the main floor of what I now understood was Alessio's primary residence. The kitchen opened onto a formal dining room that could seat 20, which in turn connected to a great room with soaring ceilings and a wall of windows overlooking sculpted gardens. A media room housed a screen larger than my former living room wall, and multiple sitting areas offered different views of the grounds. The pool is through here, Anna explained, leading us through French doors onto a covered patio. Emma gasped with delight at the sight of the shimmering blue water, steam rising gently from its surface into the cool morning air. Is it warm? Heated year-round, Anna confirmed. But you'll need swimsuits before you can go in. Which reminds me, Mr. Russo asked me to show you the dressing rooms after the tour. Dressing rooms? I echoed. Anna nodded. He had some things brought in for you both this morning. Some things turned out to be an entire wardrobe for each of us. The dressing room adjacent to the bedroom where I'd awakened contained rack after rack of clothing in precisely my size. Everything from casual wear to evening gowns, with shoes, handbags, and even lingerie to match each outfit. A similar setup filled a smaller room connected to what had apparently been designated as Emma's bedroom, complete with the princess bed she'd mentioned, a canopied confection that would have made Disney royalty jealous. This is excessive, I murmured, running my fingers over the sleeve of a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than I made in a week. Mr. Russo is thorough, Anna said diplomatically. He wanted to ensure you had everything you might need. How did he know our sizes? I asked, though I was afraid I already knew the answer. Anna's smile never wavered. I believe Marco took note of your apartment's contents before the fire. They had been through our things, catalogued our lives before they burned to the ground. The violation sent a chill down my spine, even as a tiny voice in my head whispered that at least we had clothes to wear. I'll leave you to change, Anna said. Emma mentioned wanting to try the pool, so I've laid out swimsuits for you both. Towels are in the cabana. I'll be in the kitchen preparing lunch if you need anything. Left alone, I sank onto a velvet ottoman, trying to make sense of my new reality. The clothes surrounding me represented more money than I'd ever possess. The house itself was like something from a magazine spread, too perfect, too luxurious to be real. And somewhere within its walls was Alessio Russo, the man who had orchestrated all of this for reasons I couldn't begin to understand. Emma burst into the room, already changed into a ruffled pink swimsuit. Mommy, can we go swimming now, please? Her excitement was the first normal thing I'd encountered since waking in this gilded cage. I forced a smile. Let me change first, okay? An hour later, watching Emma splash happily in the shallow end of the pool, I allowed myself a moment of peace. Whatever was happening, whatever Alessio's motives might be, my daughter was safe and happy. For now, that would have to be enough. I didn't notice Marco's arrival until his shadow fell across the lounge chair where I sat. Ms. Parker, he said, his deep voice startling me. Mr. Russo asked me to inform you that he's arranged for your workplace to be notified of your absence. You've been granted a 2-week leave with pay. He did what? I sat up straight, clutching the plush towel around my shoulders. He had no right. He also asked me to give you this. Marco held out a manila envelope, ignoring my protest. Inside was a stack of official-looking documents, an insurance claim form for my apartment already filled out in my name, a check for an amount that made my eyes widen, and a temporary ID card since mine had presumably been lost in the fire. How did he... I looked up at Marco, whose expression remained impassive. Mr. Russo has connections, he replied simply. Is there anything you or your daughter need? The question felt loaded, though I couldn't explain why. No, thank you. Marco nodded and retreated to a position by the pool house, where he stood with hands clasped behind his back, gaze sweeping the grounds in a continuous, vigilant pattern. It was then that I realized we weren't just guests in Alessio's home. We were being watched, protected, or perhaps more accurately, guarded. The question was, Were we being guarded from outside threats? Or was Alessio ensuring we couldn't leave? As I watched Emma laugh and play in water that cost more to heat than our monthly electricity bill, I wondered what price we would ultimately pay for this unexpected salvation, and whether I would have any choice in the matter when the time came to settle the debt. Dinner that evening was an exercise in restraint. Alessio presided at the head of the massive dining table, with me to his right and Emma to his left, looking tiny in a chair that could have accommodated 3 children her size. The formal dining room seemed excessive for just the 3 of us, but I was beginning to understand that excess was Alessio's standard operating procedure. Emma, oblivious to the tension crackling between the adults, chatted happily about her day of swimming and cookie making. She had taken to Anna immediately, and, more unsettlingly, to Alessio as well. She seemed completely unfazed by his imposing presence, peppering him with questions that would have made me flinch if I weren't trying so hard to appear composed. "Do you have kids, Mr. Al?" she asked between bites of the pasta Anna had prepared specially for her. Alessio's expression softened almost imperceptibly when he looked at my daughter. "No, Emma, I don't." "Why not? Don't you like kids?" I nearly choked on my wine. "Emma, that's not a polite question." "It's all right," Alessio said, setting down his fork. "I like children very much, Emma. I simply never found the right person to have them with." Emma considered this with the solemn thoughtfulness only a 4-year-old could muster. "My daddy didn't want me," she announced with the brutal honesty of childhood. "Mommy says he wasn't ready for a responsibility like me." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. I saw Alessio's jaw tighten, a muscle working beneath the skin. "Emma," I said quickly, "remember what we talked about? Some things are private family matters. Your mother is right about privacy." Alessio interjected, his voice gentler than I'd heard it before. "But she's wrong about one thing. Your father didn't leave because of you. He left because he was a coward who didn't deserve either of you." The certainty in his voice sent a chill down my spine. He spoke as if he knew Ryan personally, as if he had judged and condemned him with the same casual authority he applied to everything else. "How would you know?" I asked, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Alessio's dark eyes met mine. "Men who abandon their children are cowards. That's not an opinion, Olivia. It's a fact." The conviction behind his words silenced me. There was history there, something personal that had nothing to do with me or Emma, yet seemed to inform his entire interaction with us. After dinner, Anna appeared to take Emma for her bath and bedtime routine. My daughter went willingly, already comfortable in this strange new world where chefs prepared your favorite foods and heated pools awaited your pleasure. I envied her adaptability. "Will you read me a story later, Mommy?" she asked as Anna led her away. "Of course, baby. I'll be up soon." When we were alone, Alessio gestured toward a door I hadn't noticed before. "Join me for a drink?" It wasn't really a question. I followed him into what appeared to be a study, different from the one we'd spoken in that morning. This room was smaller, more intimate, with a fireplace crackling against one wall, and shelves lined with books that looked actually read rather than chosen for their leather bindings. He poured amber liquid into 2 crystal tumblers, offering one to me. I accepted it, but didn't drink. "You have questions," he stated, settling into a leather armchair and indicating I should take the one opposite. "About 100, I admitted, perching on the edge of the seat. "Starting with how you knew about the insurance claim. I didn't have apartment insurance." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You do now. Retroactive to 3 months ago. That's not possible. Many things become possible with the right connections. And you just happen to have connections in the insurance industry. I have connections everywhere, Olivia." He took a sip of his drink, watching me over the rim of his glass. "The more pressing question is what you plan to do next." I stared at him, caught off guard by the directness. "Find a new apartment, obviously. Go back to work, rebuild our lives. With what resources?" The question stung because it exposed the precariousness of my situation. Even with the insurance money, which I still wasn't convinced was legitimate, finding affordable housing would be nearly impossible on my waitress salary. Childcare for Emma alone ate half my income. "I'll figure it out," I said, with more confidence than I felt. "I always do. Always having to figure it out is exhausting, isn't it?" His perception was uncomfortable, never having a safety net. always one mishap away from disaster. What's your point? I asked, defensive now. My point is that you don't have to leave. He stated it matter-of-factly, as if offering me the weather forecast rather than something that would fundamentally alter our lives. You and Emma can stay here indefinitely. I laughed, a short, brittle sound. Right, we'll just move in with a complete stranger, because he has a nice pool. You know I'm not a complete stranger, do I? I set my untouched drink on the side table. I know your name is Alessio Russo. I know you have more money than seems reasonable. I know you have men who follow your orders without question. That's not knowing someone, Alessio. That's barely an introduction. He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he reached for his phone, typed something, and set it aside. What do you want to know? The question seemed sincere, which only made me more suspicious. Why us? Why did you stop for me in the rain? Why bring us here? I was driving home from a business meeting. I saw you walking in a dangerous neighborhood during a storm. Basic human decency. Most people's basic human decency doesn't extend to creating fake insurance policies or buying entire wardrobes for strangers. He conceded the point with a slight inclination of his head. I have the means to help in ways others don't. Why wouldn't I use them? Because people don't do things without expecting something in return. Something darkened in his eyes. What do you think I expect in return, Olivia? The question hung between us, heavy with implication. I felt heat rise to my cheeks but forced myself to hold his gaze. I don't know. That's what frightens me. A knock at the door interrupted us. Marco entered, his expression as impassive as ever. Everything is arranged, sir, Alessio nodded. Thank you, Marco. When we were alone again, I raised an eyebrow. What's arranged? Information. You said you don't know me. He picked up his phone, swiping through something before handing it to me. Now you can. On the screen was what appeared to be a dossier, a comprehensive background on Alessio Russo. Business holdings, philanthropic endeavors, properties, even press clippings. It was surreal, like being handed someone's autobiography in bullet points. You just happen to have this ready? I asked skeptically. I had it prepared while we were talking. As I said, I have resources. I scrolled through the document, trying to make sense of the man before me. According to this carefully curated information, Alessio was 41, had never married, and controlled a vast business empire spanning real estate, shipping, and finance. He served on charitable boards, funded scholarships, and maintained residences in 3 countries. It was impressively comprehensive. It was also, I was certain, heavily redacted. This tells me what you do, I said, handing back the phone. Not who you are. The two are often inseparable. Not in my experience. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his severe features into something almost approachable. You're not easily impressed, are you, Olivia? I'm a single mother who works 60-hour weeks to keep a roof over her daughter's head. I don't have time to be impressed, and yet you've managed to raise a remarkable child. Emma is intelligent, curious, and surprisingly well-adjusted for someone whose life has had so much instability. The genuine admiration in his voice caught me off guard. She's everything to me. I can see that. He leaned forward, his expression intent. Which is why my offer stands. Stay here, where she's safe and happy. Where you both can have stability and security. Why? The question came out as barely a whisper. Because I can provide it. He said it simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Because she deserves it. Because you deserve it. You don't know what I deserve. You don't know me. I know more than you think. The statement sent a chill through me. Before I could respond, my attention was caught by a silver-framed photograph on the desk behind him, one I hadn't noticed before. It showed a much younger Alessio, with his arm around a woman who could have been my sister. Our resemblance was so striking. Same honey-blonde hair, same delicate features, same green eyes that now stared back at me from a face frozen in time. My breath caught. Who is that? Alessio followed my gaze, his expression shuddering. My sister, Sophia. She looks like you. Yes. He stood abruptly, moving to the liquor cabinet to refill his glass. She died 15 years ago. The pieces began to click into place with sickening clarity. That's why you stopped for me. I reminded you of her. He didn't deny it. The resemblance was startling. Is that what this is? Some twisted way to bring her back? Anger flared, hot and sudden. I'm not your sister, Alessio. Emma and I aren't replacements for whatever family you've lost. I never said you were. His voice had gone cold, the brief glimpse of vulnerability vanishing behind the impassive mask I was beginning to recognize as his default. The resemblance caught my attention. Your situation compelled my assistance. The two are separate matters. I wasn't convinced. I should check on Emma. Of course. He stepped aside, clearing my path to the door. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. It wasn't a request. Upstairs, I found Emma already tucked into her princess bed, eyes heavy with sleep, but fighting to stay awake until I arrived. I read her the promised story, a beautifully illustrated book from the shelves in her new room, and kissed her forehead as she drifted off. I like it here, Mommy, she murmured, already half asleep. Can we stay forever? I didn't answer, my throat tight with emotions I couldn't name. Instead, I stroked her hair until her breathing deepened into sleep, then slipped from the room. In the hallway, I nearly collided with a woman I hadn't seen before. Middle-aged, with sharp eyes, and an efficiently neat appearance. She carried a stack of fresh towels. Sorry, I apologized automatically. I didn't see you. No problem, Ms. Parker. She smiled professionally. I'm Clara, the head housekeeper. Is there anything you need for your room? No, thank you. Everything's fine. I hesitated. Clara, how long have you worked for Mr. Russo? Something guarded flickered across her features. Nearly 20 years, ma'am. So you knew his sister? Sophia? The towels clutched in her arms seemed to tighten fractionally. I did. What happened to her? Clara glanced down the hallway, though we were alone. It's not my place to discuss family matters, Ms. Parker. Please, I pressed. I need to understand why we're here. She sighed, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. She was murdered. Her husband killed her when she tried to leave him. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. She had a daughter. Not much older than your Emma. She died too. Horror washed through me. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Mr. Russo doesn't speak of it. It nearly destroyed him. She squared her shoulders, professionalism slipping back into place. If there's nothing else you need? I shook my head, and she continued down the hallway, leaving me with a sickening knot in my stomach. The resemblance to Sophia, Emma's age. It couldn't be coincidence. Alessio saw in us some echo of his lost family, and the realization made me deeply uneasy. I returned to my room, locking the door before realizing how futile the gesture was. This was Alessio's house. A locked door wouldn't keep him out if he decided to enter. Sleep eluded me as I stared at the ornate ceiling, my mind racing. I needed to leave, to get Emma away from this place, and the man whose interest in us stemmed from tragedy and loss. But where would we go? How would I protect her from the harsh realities waiting beyond these walls? Morning came too quickly, pale light filtering through curtains I'd forgotten to close. I showered in the marble bathroom, trying not to become accustomed to the luxury that surrounded me. Choosing the simplest outfit I could find from the extensive wardrobe, jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than my weekly salary, I went to check on Emma. Her room was empty, the bed neatly made. Panic fluttered in my chest until I heard her laugh echoing from somewhere downstairs. I followed the sound to the kitchen, where I found her perched on a stool, helping Anna make pancakes. "Mommy," she called when she saw me. "I'm cooking." "I see that." I smiled, kissing the top of her head. "Good morning, Anna." The chef returned my greeting warmly. Emma has been telling me all about the zoo animals she wants to see. Apparently Mr. Russo promised to take her today. My smile froze. Did he? He said we can see the penguins. Emma bounced excitedly. And the lions and the monkeys and everything. That's a big promise to make without checking with me first, I said, trying to keep my tone light. Oh. Emma's face fell. Don't you want to go to the zoo, Mommy? I was saved from answering by Alessio's arrival. He looked immaculate as always, though today he wore casual attire, dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that somehow managed to look both relaxed and intimidating. "Good morning," he greeted, his eyes finding mine immediately. "I trust you slept well." Before I could respond, Emma launched into an excited recounting of the zoo plans. Alessio listened with what appeared to be genuine interest, his severe features softening as my daughter described, in excruciating detail, every animal she hoped to see. "Emma," I interrupted gently, "why don't you go upstairs and get dressed? There's a new outfit on your bed that might be perfect for the zoo." She scrambled down from her stool, racing from the room with an energy I envied. When we were alone, save for Anna, who discreetly busied herself at the stove, I turned to Alessio. "You had no right to make promises to my daughter without consulting me." "You're right," he conceded, surprising me. "I should have discussed it with you first." Emma mentioned wanting to see animals, and I acted impulsively. The apology, unexpected as it was, deflated some of my anger. I appreciate that, but I need you to understand something. Emma is my daughter. Mine. Not a replacement for your niece, not a second chance at whatever family you lost. Do you understand that? His expression darkened. "Clara told you about Sophia. She didn't want to." I asked. He was silent for a long moment, tension radiating from him in almost palpable waves. When he finally spoke, his voice was controlled, but I sensed the effort it cost him. "I understand your concern. The resemblance between you and my sister is remarkable. But I assure you, I don't see you as her replacement." His eyes met mine, intense and unflinching. "What happened to Sophia and her daughter is why I stopped for you that night. Not to replace them, but because I couldn't bear to see history repeat itself." "What are you talking about?" "A woman alone, vulnerable, with a young child. No resources, no protection." His jaw tightened. "Sophia was in a similar situation when she met her husband. He promised her security, gave her a life of luxury, then turned it into a prison." The parallel he was drawing sent ice through my veins. "I'm not Sophia." "No," he agreed softly. "You're stronger than she was, but the world is no kinder now than it was then." Before I could respond, Emma came racing back into the kitchen, dressed in a cute outfit clearly chosen for a day at the zoo. Her excitement was contagious, making it impossible to continue the serious conversation. "Are we going now?" she asked, practically vibrating with anticipation. Alessio looked to me, waiting for my decision. The realization that he was actually respecting my authority as Emma's mother surprised me. "Yes," I said finally, unable to disappoint my daughter. "We're going to the zoo." What I didn't say, what I couldn't say with Emma present, was that this would be our last day in Alessio's world. Tomorrow, I would take the insurance money and find us a new place, far from the complications and unspoken expectations that seemed to permeate every interaction with this man. I couldn't afford to be drawn into his orbit, to become dependent on his generosity, or to allow Emma to form attachments that would only hurt her when they inevitably ended. We needed to return to our real life, difficult as it was. What I didn't realize then was that our real life had already been irrevocably altered, and that leaving Alessio Russo would prove far more difficult than I ever imagined. The zoo outing was disarmingly normal, or as normal as anything could be with an entourage of security personnel maintaining a discreet perimeter around us. Emma darted from exhibit to exhibit, her excitement inexhaustible. Alessio stayed close, his attention divided between my daughter's delight and the constant vigilance of his men. I watched him with Emma, searching for signs of manipulation or unhealthy attachment. Instead, I saw only patience and a kind of wistful gentleness that made my chest ache. He answered her endless questions thoughtfully, knelt to her level when pointing out animals, and seemed genuinely amused by her unfiltered observations. "Mr. Al," she said, tugging at his hand as we stood before the lion enclosure. "Are you rich?" I choked on my water. "Emma, that's not polite." Alessio's lips quirked upward. "It's a fair question." "Yes, Emma. I am what people would consider rich." She nodded sagely. "I thought so. You have a swimming pool and lots of big men who follow you around. Are they your friends?" "They work for me," he replied. "Their job is to keep people safe." "Like superheroes?" Her eyes widened. "Not exactly." He glanced at Marco, who maintained his stoic expression despite the comparison. "They're more like guardians. Do they keep you safe from bad guys?" Something flickered across Alessio's face. A darkness quickly concealed. "Sometimes. They also help me keep other people safe." Like me and Mommy? Exactly like you and your mommy. She considered this, her small brow furrowed in concentration. Are there bad guys after us, Emma? I interrupted firmly. That's enough questions. Let's go see the penguins you were so excited about. As she skipped ahead, Alessio fell into step beside me. She's remarkably perceptive. She's 4, I said dryly. They all ask uncomfortable questions at inappropriate moments. You've done well with her, he observed. Despite the difficulties, I bristled at what felt like condescension. I don't need your approval of my parenting. It wasn't condescension, Olivia. It was admiration. His voice had softened. My sister wasn't as strong as you. She let her husband isolate her, control her. By the time she finally tried to leave, he trailed off, pain etching lines around his eyes that made him look suddenly older. I felt a reluctant stab of sympathy. I'm sorry about your sister, I said quietly, and your niece. But you need to understand that Emma and I can't be your second chance. Is that what you think this is? What else could it be? You see a woman who looks like your dead sister, with a daughter close to your niece's age, and suddenly you're offering us a life most people only dream about. It's not healthy, Alessio. Not for you, not for Emma, and not for me. He was quiet for several steps, his face unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and intense. 3 years ago, I found the man who killed my sister and her daughter. The abrupt change of subject startled me. What? He fled to South America after the murders, changed his name, built a new life. It took me 12 years to track him down. His eyes, when they met mine, were cold as winter. Do you know what I did when I found him? A chill ran down my spine. I don't think I want to know. I had him brought back to the States. Delivered him to the authorities with enough evidence to ensure he'd never see daylight again. His jaw tightened. It would have been easier to kill him, more satisfying perhaps, but Sophia deserved justice, not vengeance. I studied his profile, trying to reconcile this revelation with the man beside me. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand who I am. He stopped walking, turning to face me directly. I'm not looking for replacements, Olivia. I'm trying to prevent history from repeating itself. By what? Keeping us in a gilded cage? Controlling our lives? By offering protection, resources, options. His intensity was almost physical. The world is full of predators. I've spent my life learning to recognize them, to fight them on their own terms. What I'm offering you and Emma isn't imprisonment. It's freedom from vulnerability. Freedom doesn't come with conditions, Alessio. Everything comes with conditions. The difference is whether they're spoken or unspoken. He gestured ahead where Emma was pressing her face against the glass of the penguin habitat, her breath fogging the surface. Right now, your condition is that you must work yourself to exhaustion to provide the bare minimum for your daughter. You have no safety net, no backup plan, no protection. His words struck too close to the truth. We were managing. Were you? Or were you one missed paycheck away from disaster? I had no answer that wasn't a lie. I'm not asking you to be anything other than who you are, he continued. I'm simply offering you the chance to be that person without the constant weight of survival pressing down on you. Before I could respond, Emma came running back, her face alight with excitement. Mommy, the penguins are swimming. Come see. The moment broke, and I let Emma pull me toward the exhibit, grateful for the interruption. Alessio's words had found their target with unerring precision, exposing the precariousness of our existence and the constant fear I lived with. But was accepting his help any less dangerous? We returned to the mansion late in the afternoon, Emma drowsy after the excitement of the day. I carried her upstairs for a nap, grateful for the excuse to retreat from Alessio's unsettling presence. As I tucked the blanket around my sleeping daughter, I made my decision. We would leave tomorrow. I would use the insurance money to find us a small apartment, enroll Emma in a decent preschool, and return to the life we knew. Difficult as it was ours. I had just stepped into the hallway when Marco appeared, his expression as impassive as ever. Ms. Parker, Mr. Russo would like to see you in his study. It wasn't a request, I followed him downstairs, steeling myself for another conversation laden with unspoken implications and offers too tempting to be safe. The study door was closed. Marco knocked once, then stepped aside to let me enter. Alessio sat behind his desk, his attention focused on a document before him. He looked up as I entered, his expression giving nothing away. "Come in, Olivia. Please sit down." I perched on the edge of a chair, my back straight, defenses raised. "Emma's asleep. The zoo exhausted her." He nodded. "She seemed to enjoy herself." "She did. Thank you for that." I took a deep breath. "Alessio, I've made a decision. Emma and I will be leaving tomorrow." If he was surprised, he didn't show it. "May I ask where you'll go? I'll use the insurance money to find an apartment. It should be enough for a security deposit and a few months' rent until I can get back on my feet. And childcare, transportation, the 1,000 unexpected expenses that come with rebuilding a life from scratch." His rational assessment of the challenges ahead only strengthened my resolve. "We'll manage. We always do." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." I met his gaze directly. "I appreciate everything you've done for us, truly, but I can't live in your world, Alessio. I can't accept what you're offering without losing something essential of myself. What if I told you that leaving could put you and Emma in danger?" The abrupt shift sent ice through my veins. "What kind of danger?" Alessio stood, moving to a window that overlooked the manicured grounds. "The night of the fire wasn't an accident, Olivia." "What are you talking about?" "The fire chief said it was electrical. The fire was deliberately set." He turned to face me, his expression grave. "My men found evidence of accelerant in the maintenance room adjacent to your apartment. That's not possible." But even as I protested, doubt crept in. The timing had always seemed too convenient, too coincidental. "Why would anyone target our building? Not the building. You." The room seemed to tilt beneath me. "Me? That's ridiculous. I'm nobody. I'm a waitress with barely enough money to make rent. Why would anyone want to?" "Ryan Collins." The name hit me like a physical blow. "Emma's father? That's impossible. He walked away 4 years ago. He's never even seen her." "He's seen her." Alessio's voice had hardened. "He's been watching you both for weeks." "How would you know that?" He hesitated, as if measuring how much to reveal. "After I met you that night, I had you looked into. Standard procedure when you what? Take an interest in someone? Decide to play savior?" Anger flared, hot and sudden. "You investigated me?" "I did." He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. And what I found concerned me. "Ryan Collins isn't just your ex-boyfriend, Olivia. He's connected to people who operate outside the law." "You're lying." But a cold knot of dread was forming in my stomach. Ryan had always been evasive about his work, his money, the people he associated with. It was one of many reasons our relationship had been doomed from the start. "I wish I were." Alessio crossed to his desk, opening a folder and sliding several photographs across the surface. These were taken in the week before the fire. With trembling fingers, I picked them up. The first showed Ryan, older, harder than I remembered, standing outside Pearson's diner. The next caught him watching Emma on the playground at her preschool. The last, most chilling of all, captured him outside our apartment building, speaking with someone whose face was obscured. "This doesn't prove anything," I whispered, though the evidence was damning. Maybe he just wanted to see her. After all this time. "Ryan Collins works for Vincent Caruso." Alessio spoke the name as if it should mean something to me. When I didn't react, he continued. "Caruso controls most of the drug trade on the East Coast. Collins handles money laundering through a network of shell companies and front businesses." "How do you know all this?" Alessio's eyes met mine, unflinching. "Because I know exactly who and what Vincent Caruso is. I've spent years dismantling his operation piece by piece, business by business." Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. "You're like him." "No." The word was sharp, definitive. "I'm nothing like Caruso. My businesses are legitimate. My methods are not. But you're... what? Some kind of mob boss?" The accusation hung between us. "I prefer businessman with extensive security concerns," he replied, with the ghost of a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "But the important thing right now is that Collins has resurfaced for a reason. and that reason involves you and Emma. My head was spinning, reality shifting beneath my feet. I don't understand. Why now? After 4 years of complete silence. Because Caruso is losing ground, fast. He's desperate for leverage against his enemies. Alessio's expression darkened. Including me. What does that have to do with us? The night I picked you up in the rain. That wasn't coincidence, Olivia. One of Colin's men had been following you. My security team noticed and alerted me. He leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. I didn't stop because you looked like Sophia, though the resemblance is striking. I stopped because you were in immediate danger. I struggled to process this new reality. So, the fire was meant to flush you out, make you vulnerable, desperate for help. His jaw tightened. If I hadn't gotten to you first, Collins would have been there with a convenient solution to all your problems. Why would he do that? He wanted nothing to do with us. Because you're valuable now. Alessio's voice gentled. You're connected to me. The implication stole my breath. You're saying we're in danger because of you. You were in danger before I entered the picture. The difference is that now you have protection. He gestured around us. Why do you think I brought you here? This estate has security measures that would make most government facilities envious. My mind raced, trying to separate truth from manipulation. How do I know you're not making this up to keep us here? Instead of answering, Alessio pressed a button on his desk. Moments later, Marco entered carrying a tablet. Show her. Marco handed me the device. On the screen was a video, surveillance footage from what appeared to be a restaurant. The timestamp indicated it was from 3 days ago. I recognized Ryan immediately, sitting across from a heavy-set man whose face spoke of power and cruelty. They were arguing, Ryan's gestures becoming increasingly agitated. The video had no sound, but I didn't need to hear the words to understand the threat, when the other man, Caruso, I presumed, grabbed Ryan by the throat. He's been given an ultimatum, Alessio explained quietly. Deliver you and Emma, or pay with his life. I set the tablet down, my hands shaking. I need to think. It's too much. Of course. Alessio's voice was gentle now, understanding. Take all the time you need, but understand this. If you walk out that door, I can't guarantee your safety, not yours, and not Emma's. So we're prisoners after all. No. He moved around the desk until he stood directly before me. You're free to leave whenever you choose. I'm simply asking you to make that choice with full awareness of the consequences. I stood, needing distance from his overwhelming presence. I need to check on Emma. He stepped aside, clearing my path to the door. She's safe here, Olivia. You both are. I fled the study, mind reeling. Upstairs, I found Emma still sleeping peacefully, one arm flung above her head, lips slightly parted. The sight of her, so vulnerable, so trusting, sent a wave of fierce protectiveness through me. If what Alessio said was true, and the evidence suggested it was, walking away meant exposing her to dangers I couldn't fight alone. Staying meant accepting Alessio's protection, his world, and whatever unspoken expectations came with them. There were no good choices, only impossible ones. Night fell, and I remained by Emma's bedside, watching her sleep as I wrestled with my decision. When she finally stirred, blinking up at me with sleepy confusion, I forced a smile. Hey, sleepyhead, you were tired from all those animals, she yawned, stretching like a cat. Can we go swimming again? Maybe tomorrow. I smoothed her tousled curls. Are you hungry? Dinner should be ready soon. She nodded enthusiastically, all traces of sleep vanishing at the mention of food. As I helped her wash up and change, my mind continued its frantic calculations. Stay or go, safety or freedom, the devil I knew or the one I didn't. Dinner was a subdued affair. Alessio was absent, having been called away on business according to Anna. I was secretly relieved, needing space to think without his intense presence influencing my decision. After tucking Emma in for the night, I wandered the vast house, eventually finding myself on a terrace overlooking the moonlit grounds. The night was clear, stars puncturing the darkness above like distant watchful eyes. Couldn't sleep? I whirled to find Alessio standing in the doorway, his silhouette outlined by the warm light from within. He'd loosened his tie, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked slightly disheveled, human rather than the immaculate, untouchable figure I'd come to expect. "I have a lot on my mind." He moved to stand beside me at the stone balustrade, keeping a respectful distance between us. Understandable. We stood in silence for several moments, the night air cool against my skin. Finally, I spoke the question that had been haunting me since our earlier conversation. "What do you want from us, Alessio? Really?" He considered the question, his profile sharp against the night sky. "Initially, protection. The chance to keep you both safe from Collins and his associates. And now?" His gaze found mine, startlingly direct in the moonlight. "Now, I find myself wanting more." My heart stuttered. "What does that mean?" "It means I admire your strength, your determination to protect your daughter at all costs. It means I enjoy Emma's curiosity and resilience." He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his features. "It means I'm drawn to you in ways I didn't anticipate." The admission hung between us, charged with possibilities both tantalizing and terrifying. "I can't be what you want me to be. I'm not asking you to be anything other than who you are. Aren't you?" I challenged softly. "The clothes, the luxury, this entire lifestyle. It's a gilded cage, Alessio. One I don't fit into." "Then shape it to fit you." He turned to face me fully now. "I'm not offering charity, Olivia. I'm offering partnership." "Partnership?" I repeated skeptically. "We're from different worlds. Worlds can collide." He stepped closer, his presence enveloping me like a physical force. "Stay. Not because you're afraid to leave, but because you choose to see what might be possible between us." I should have stepped back, should have maintained the distance that kept me safe, independent. Instead, I found myself swaying toward him, drawn by something I couldn't name. "And Emma? We'll have everything she could ever need. Safety, opportunity, a future without limits." His voice softened. "And a man who would die to protect her. Not because she reminds me of someone I lost, but because she is extraordinary in her own right, like her mother." His hand rose, fingers brushing my cheek with a gentleness that belied his strength. "I'm not asking for an answer tonight. Only that you consider the possibility that what began as protection could become something more." Before I could respond, a commotion from within the house shattered the moment. Marco appeared at the doorway, his usually impassive face tense with urgency. "Sir, we have a situation." Alessio's demeanor changed instantly, the vulnerable man vanishing behind the mask of authority I recognized. "What is it?" "Perimeter breach at the north gate. Collins has been identified among the intruders." Cold fear gripped my heart. "Emma is secure," Marco assured me. "Davis and Chen are with her." Alessio turned to me, his expression grave. "Go to Emma. Stay with her. Do not leave her side for any reason." "What's happening?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "What I've been preparing for." He signaled to Marco, who immediately moved to escort me inside. "Collins made his choice. Now I'll make mine." As Marco led me upstairs to Emma's room, alarm systems activated throughout the house, silent to us, but undoubtedly alerting Alessio's security forces. I found Emma still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger approaching. 2 men stood guard inside her room, weapons visible at their sides. I curled around my daughter on the bed, heart pounding as I strained to hear what was happening. Minutes stretched into an hour, the silence broken only by occasional terse communications through the guards' earpieces. Then, finally, footsteps in the hallway. The door opened to reveal Alessio, his expression grim, but controlled. "It's over," he said simply. "Collins and his men have been apprehended. They're being turned over to federal authorities as we speak." Relief made me dizzy. They wanted Emma? They wanted leverage. He crossed to the bed, his eyes softening as they fell on my sleeping daughter. "They've been neutralized. Permanently." I didn't ask what that meant. Some things were better left unspoken. "What happens now?" I whispered. Alessio's gaze met mine, steady and certain. "That depends on you. You can leave tomorrow with the assurance that Collins no longer poses a threat. Or... My voice was barely audible. Or you can stay. See what kind of life we might build together. He held out his hand, an offering rather than a demand. The choice is yours, Olivia. It always has been. I looked down at Emma, peaceful in sleep, unaware of how close danger had come. Then back to Alessio, the man who had saved us not once but twice now, the man who offered protection, security, and perhaps something I'd long ago stopped believing in, a future bright with possibility rather than shadowed by struggle. I reached out, my fingers intertwining with his. Not a surrender, but a choice. My choice. We'll stay, I said softly. For now. His smile transformed his face, revealing the man beneath the power and control. For now, he agreed, and perhaps, one day, for always. As he sat beside us, his free hand gently brushing Emma's hair from her forehead with a tenderness that made my heart ache, I realized that sometimes the most unexpected turns in life's road lead not to captivity, but to freedom. Not to loss, but to something found. And sometimes, a ride accepted in the rain can lead to a future you never dared imagine. Thank you all so much for following this story. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to like and subscribe, because your support is important for me to continue here.